Hi, I'm Edwin Baloloy with FILAM. We're a nonprofit that serves mostly the Southern California area, predominantly the Orange County and LA County areas. I'm here with Cristina Espritu. I'll get into her introduction in a minute, but then just to be clear, we're not trying to sell you anything. We work for our own respective nonprofits, which are funded, but we do have a lot of valuable information to give you. Cristina Espritu of PACE. Why don't you tell them what you do with PACE?
Sure. So I work with a lot of different business owners, and then part of what I do is I work at PACE, which is Pacific Asian Consortium and Employment, and I work in their procurement department. And PACE is a nonprofit organization that has been around since the 70s. So it started in the 70s doing employment, and then now it has about 400 people. And then back in the 1980s, they started Business Development Center, which is catered to business owners throughout Southern California. And then we provide training and then also loans. And then right now we're doing a lot of procurement as well.
Great. And I didn't know about this whole new world out there, for lack of better corny analogies, that people could go out there and get funding as opposed to, which goes into my first question, because I always I'm a real estate agent by trade. That's my day job. But then I remember when my first year in real estate, I took a real big sizable line of credit with Wells Fargo, and I think I was able to tap, because they were giving money out during that time. I was able to tap like $80,000, but then of course I have to pay it back. So, first question: what's the difference between a business loan and a grant?
Yes. So a business loan is something that we're pretty familiar with, right? So a loan is something that you have to repay, similar to, if you have a mortgage loan or a car payment, right? And then it has interest. Whereas a grant is essentially free money, right? So that means it also gets a little bit more competitive when people say free money. People want to apply for grants. And then the other difference is who gives out loans versus who gives out grants. So grants are usually given out by, as a financial institution or some sort of lender, right? So whether it's an alternative lender or a hard money lender, that's where those are the ones that usually give out the loans. Whereas grants, it can be from various sources. So for example, there are grants from different levels of government. So whether you're in the federal, state, city, or county, there are also grants that are given by trade associations. There are grants that are given out by corporations like Amazon or DoorDash or eBay. But whether it doesn't matter where the grants are coming from, it's also just a matter of public policy. What they want to do is to promote and enrich business owners.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be, I'm just going off script here, but sometimes it could be tied to some kind of government policies, and sometimes a bill, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes, exactly. So there may be some that are given out by USDA, right? Right now I was just doing a little bit of research on a client who's looking into grants that are on food service or food education for colleges.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't know about this until recently, as someone who's in real estate. When I'm driving around and I kept asking myself over the last 10 years, how come they're building so many apartment buildings? It's almost like everyone has money like candy. Then I realized that not only is there tax incentives, but then there's grants that are funding this. State of California and LA County especially, they're trying to tackle homelessness, so they're doing it through a lot of these grants.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
And what's some of the other examples of grants available? Because our audience, we have Irvine business owners who's on our email blasts and on our advertising. So maybe talk about something that pertains to them.
Sure. So for example, one of the things that I think it's often overlooked are grants that come from the government, right? So maybe the big grants. But the ones that are smaller ones may come from your city or your county. Then also the state of California, and then obviously the federal. But for example, there were during COVID and even a little bit after, there were a lot of grants that catered to businesses that are located in certain cities. So there was one for Santa Ana, there was one for city of LA, right? So that's one. And then the other one is, and this is I would say pretty popular, because I've gotten 3 inquiries in the past, maybe like a couple of weeks. It's called SBIR grant, which is the Small Business Innovation and Research Grant, which is through the SBA. And it's
Okay.
for, yeah, and it's actually for companies that have some sort of innovative and unique product. So you can actually go to the SBA, it's called SBIR grant. And then you can go ahead and apply and see if your product is something that is innovative enough or unique enough that they will fund. But just to
Okay.
give you, yeah, just to give you an example, because this is kind of like a fun fact. I was doing a workshop and someone from the SBA office talked about that grant. And so one of the things, so everyone has like a Roomba, right? Everyone knows about the
Yeah.
Roomba or yeah, the iRobot, which is what I have. So that one actually came out from an SBIR grant. And then the initial application that they have was to sweep landmines. So sweep for things like that. So that was the government application. And so those projects also need some sort of a commercial application. And so the commercial application is sweeping up your house for dust. So
Okay.
pretty
Okay.
interesting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really for someone who's like doing R&D or any kind of manufacturing, just
Yes.
making new products in general.
Exactly. And then another place to actually look for grants are the companies that you frequent or you use. So for example, if you're in the restaurant industry, at one point they had DoorDash was giving out grants, and then eBay for people who are using eBay or even Etsy. So
Wow.
and even right now, actually, Verizon, I think, had opened up their Verizon Digital Ready grant. So they had their last cohort that closed a few months ago, and I believe they just opened up a new one. So,
Wow. And then I
yeah.
heard even Elon Musk used grants along the way when they were developing Tesla and some of his electric cars. I don't know how accurate that is,
Yeah.
but I do know he was the king of using some government money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know what, if you can find some free money out there, then, because I think one of the things that you had asked was that, are there grants that people don't apply for?
Yeah, you jumped to my next question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and there are, and I think it's because so for example, just give you an example, there was that LA County Economic Opportunity Grant that was open last year, and so that grant was extended 3 times. So like the deadline was, let's say it was like February, then it got extended a few more months, then it got extended another month, right? So I'm assuming it's because they didn't have enough applications.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's because a lot of people think, oh, grants, I don't know, is it a scam? Like, would someone really give me free money?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know that a lot of these just go underlooked. Like in real estate, there a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
didn't know there was a mortgage assistance program. And California still has money right now. But you guys
Yeah.
can contact me offline about that. I don't want
Yes,
to
please. Yes.
steal Christina's thunder over here.
Oh,
So
no, no, but
yeah.
that's another example. Oh, no, no,
Yeah.
but that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and just on
Yeah.
a side note, when I was researching the real estate ones, again for housing, because I want to definitely dive into that myself. I realized that these grants, they could specify, it looks like they could specify ethnicity and say that they prefer minorities. And this is coming straight from the state of California and LA County. I'm seeing that they prefer Native American and then
Mm-hmm.
African American and Latinos. But then at the very top, there was specifically saying Native American. So they could do that?
Yeah, yeah. So, but and I always say, because like these grants are given as are done as a matter of public policy. So
Yeah.
if it's to promote a certain ethnicity or demographic or business in a certain area. Yeah, right. So I think there are a lot of different places that you can't do that. But in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one, I've seen it. Yeah.
because you and I are minorities, minus if we don't take them, someone else will, right? If there's grants
Yeah.
out there specifically for minorities.
Yeah, and then some of the grants that I've seen become like are very, very specific. So I've seen like LGBTQ, right? So like women or grants for women. I've also seen one. It was for entrepreneur and working women that are entrepreneurs. So you have to be
Wow.
a mom and you have to be and you have to have a business. So yeah, so it can get very specific.
Okay. And speaking of getting specific, you have an event coming up about grants as I kind of put the cap on this subject.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so through PACE, and then maybe if you can put a link down, I give a monthly grant workshop, which is so mine just happened 2 weeks ago. So the next one, I'm skipping October. Next one is in November. I think it's like November 17th, but I give just like a primer on how to apply for grants, the best practices. And then as a teaser, I give a list of the grants that are open, but you have to attend the webinar in order to get the list,
Yeah,
and then
makes
only
sense.
send it to
Yeah, yeah,
attendees.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
then this is pre-recorded, but I'm putting the link on the screen right now. Of course, Christina and I aren't seeing it live. But then,
Mhm.
yeah, go ahead and check it out and sign up for the next session. So we're talking about free money, and then we're also talking about the other key to a successful business is relationships and getting
Mhm.
contracts. So we're talking about now procurement. My only experience with procurement, or my first introduction, because the Christina and I served on the same nonprofit, that's how we met. We were going to some of these procurement events held by
Mhm.
ABAOC. So I didn't know what that was. I didn't even know they existed. And I was like, wow, you could go meet the people who are directly hiring. That would have been great for, when I was in business for during my past life. So then when I'm looking at those procurement conferences, what's something I'm already cutting to the chase, you guys, and then
Mhm.
Christina will explain what those actually are and what takes place behind them. But then, if you guys are looking at the finish line, you have a face-to-face meeting. What's some of the things that someone could do, like a business owner could do, to
Mhm.
prepare in advance for that face-to-face meeting with someone that you're trying to get a contract with?
Sure. So just to give you a little bit of background, so procurement is essentially either private or like the government, right? So you either, and procurement is basically just a fancy word of saying like purchasing. So basically the government purchases everything from people like you and I, right? So from businesses. And so with regards to procurement, people think that procurement is only for construction or engineering.
That's what I,
But
yeah.
yeah, exactly, right? But the funny thing is that if you look right now at where the procurement is coming from, a lot of them are in IT. I see a lot in marketing and then also professional services. So there is so the government will buy other things, right? Besides construction and engineering. And then with your question of, let's say you go to an event and then you meet a procurement officer. So first of all, if you have a list of who the procurement officers are and what company they're coming from, just do the preliminary research and say, okay, let's say if it's let's use USDA, right? So let's say, oh, okay, someone from the Department of Agriculture is coming, right, as a procurement officer. So check it out already. What are they buying? And then because while the government buys a lot of things, there may be some things that a certain agency may not buy from you. So for example, if you're selling whatever candy or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So there may be some government agencies that are more likely to buy it rather than others. So A, do your research beforehand. And then second is kind of similar to when you're meeting with a potential employer, you give yourself, you give them your resume. So then there's also something called a business resume, which is called a capability statement. And it's essentially like a one pager that tells me, the procurement officer, who are you, what services you have, what your experience has, what your past experience is. And then also one of the more important parts is that what industry codes you're in, which is called the NICS code, right? So it tells you, okay, and there's a NICS code for everything, for real estate, for retail, for IT, maybe not for AI because it's so new. So I don't think they've made a NICS code for that one specific. But basically have capability statement ready. So then when you talk to someone, just say, they have something to take away from you, which is a capability statement.
Cool. Bill, yeah, I remember seeing not USDA, but some of the big banks there, and then some of the utility companies, and then
Mhm.
the hiring managers just right there on site. And
Yes.
I was just thought that was a big opportunity for someone. Now there's actually a term for it now, because of back when we were just starting off in this space. they always just talked about getting your minority business certification. And then now
Mhm.
when I'm hearing, actually, I went to a panel and then it was Bank of America who was on the panel. And they talked
Mm.
about how they really have objectives with DEI. That's like the key buzzword right now. And then actually, I think they even had a director of DEI out there. But with all those initiatives of them trying to go out there and hiring minority business owners or who they think is underrepresented, what's some of the ways do you think that someone could stand out more to take advantage of that?
Yeah. Oh, and then just going back to what you said about banks. So the reason why they seek out minorities is that there's something called the Community Reinvestment Act. So they have to fulfill a certain percentage of the vendors, right? That are a certain type of, like, yeah, they have to be diverse. So I think they use some sort of score in order to, if they want to like expand or acquire another bank. So one of the things that the government looks at is that CRA, the score that they get through, like, with the number or percentage of minority owners that they use as a
Oh,
vendor. Yeah. But yeah, but some ways to stand out would be, as you had mentioned, a certification. While I say a certification itself won't give you the job, right? But I call it like extra credit. So let's say if you and I are bidding for the same job, but I have a certification, so whether it's minority or women or small business or veteran, right? That certification may give you that extra credit. So then you can go from like a 95 to a 96 and you may win the bid. But
okay,
it's,
yeah,
yeah, but then, like when you get a proposal, they grade you, right? They actually grade you, like most of them with like a percentage, and this is to like 100%.
yeah.
So the certification won't bring you from a C to an A, but it will give you that little bit of an edge if you need it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then I personally want to, I'm leading into the next topic, which is your master class that's coming up. What could someone expect to learn from that?
Sure. So because procurement is such a hot topic nowadays, right? And everyone wants to know how they can be involved and be part of this procurement process. So I started a master class. So it's like a 4-part series, all the way from what is procurement, and then also developing capability statement, which is what we had talked about, how to get a certification, and then how to look, where to look for proposals, and then what are the best practices in order to both find proposals and also respond to them. And then the first one will be October 15th, from 1 to 2 p.m. and it's online. So
Oh, great. So then
yeah.
those of you who are watching on YouTube right now, I'm going to put it down below in the description. And also, if you're watching on other platforms, I'll try to put the links around. But then, Christina, thanks for your time. Just so they know there's real credibility in this, share one of the success stories, like with one of the procurement conferences or some of these relationships.
Sure. So I can tell you one cool thing that just happened recently. So we had I can't name names, but we had a client who does bicycle repair and maintenance, right? So he used to work for a school, like a college. So then he recently got a contract for 5 years doing a concession stand in one of the beaches.
Oh,
So 5 years plus the ability to renew it for another 5 years. And then the contract is in the millions.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
So then, if you want to go get a contract, definitely go sign up for this class.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
and if you want to go out, probably to go to both. Go sign up for the workshop on grants, and then sign up for the one on procurement.
yes, to get funding, right? So then just maximize the value of your company, and then find ways to grow.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks again, Christina, with partnering with PhilAm. I'm Edwin Baloloy, and we will see you at the conference.
Yeah. Thank you.